Hello guys, welcome to Open Techno. Today on the channel we have a mini PC, one of those tiny computers that doesn't take up any space and is useful for absolutely everything. This is the Beelink SEI14, a very capable computer. It's going to have a very powerful processor, although it might lack in other areas, like the graphics card, which is to be expected in a computer of this type. However, just to give you some context, because many of you might come across a video like this looking for a computer that works for different kinds of tasks. You want to see what you can do with it, but you're also considering a price range, so let me tell you that this computer is going to be around 600 to 650 euros approximately, without discounts. If I find any discounts for you, as always, I'll leave them below in the description. And with that said, let's move on to the in-depth review of this computer, the Beelink SEI14. It's one of the latest releases from Beelink. It's a brand that specializes in making small computers, some more powerful, some less powerful, at different prices after all. So if this one suits you, you can find others on their website, along with more tech gadgets. The computer, as I said, is the one behind me. You can see that it's silver in color and has dimensions of 13 centimeters on its surface and a height of almost 5 centimeters, so it's very small. However, there's a beast inside. It has an Intel processor that honestly I didn't know about until the computer arrived and I started researching it. It's a processor that mainly has artificial intelligence capabilities. This processor is an Intel Core Ultra 5 125H. Well, anyway, the naming is a bit confusing, but what does it come down to? Well, it would be something like an Intel i5, but it's also gonna have dedicated processors or cores for artificial intelligence. Later, I'll give you some small examples of how we can use this. But what are the specs of this processor? Well, we're gonna have a processor with 14 cores and 18 threads. We're gonna have cores that are very low power for very basic tasks. We're gonna have optimized cores, and we're gonna have high performance cores. It's gonna be a processor with 14 cores and 18 threads. Specifically, it will be made up of 4 high-performance cores for those more demanding tasks, 8 efficient cores for everyday tasks, and then 2 very low-power cores. For those tasks that run in the background, possibly small operating system resources and so on that use little power, that don't take away much performance, and that don't make the processor heat up. In short, all of this is also to make this mini PC a very quiet computer. In fact, right now it's completely silent. The maximum frequency of this processor is going to be 4.5 GHz, which is very good, 18 megabytes of cache memory, and a maximum power consumption of 28 watts. As you can see, it's going to be a processor that's really made for laptops, so it uses little power and doesn't get very hot. So, if we implement all this in a mini PC, we're going to get a powerful computer that's very quiet, very pleasant to have, and very small for your table or desk. And in the end, we don't have the typical giant tower with a powerful fan that makes noise and also has a power supply. In short, we reduce all this to, as I said, a cube that's 13 centimeters on each side and 4 centimeters high. If we take a look at the PC's aesthetics, we'll see a case that's made, well, it looks like aluminum, but it's actually plastic. We're going to have a silver color and a kind of dark gray, much more minimalist, just to give you a clearer idea. The colors are very similar, for example, to the ones Apple uses in its range of laptops, that silver and that gray. This computer comes with 2 accessories in the box. The first is the power adapter, which is mandatory to use because otherwise, with just USB-C, it won't get enough power. And it also comes with an HDMI cable, so that as soon as it arrives, we can connect it directly to a monitor or, for example, a TV screen. Additionally, it comes with Windows OC pre-installed, so it's ready to use right out of the box. Speaking of the connections, if we look at the front, the first thing we'll find is the power button. An LED, a headphone jack to connect and listen to music, a USB-C port at 10 gigabits per second, and a USB-A 3.2 port also at 10 gigabits per second. If we go to the back, what are we gonna find? Well, we'll have 2 USB-A 3.2 ports at 10 gigabits per second. We're going to have a single USB 2.0 port to connect, just in case, a webcam, a keyboard, a mouse, very basic things. A LAN port to connect to the internet at up to 2.5 gigabits per second, which is really good for these days. Currently, we have DisplayPort and HDMI, which will support up to 4K at 60 frames per second, a USB-C Thunderbolt 4, which will allow us up to 40 gigabits per second with this Thunderbolt 4, so we'll be able to connect it. For example, I'm connecting the monitor, and to the monitor I can connect a bunch of different USB devices, and everything goes through that single USB port. And finally, to finish, on the back, we also have the power connector, and then we have an improved cooling system compared to previous models from the brand. We take in air from the bottom and blow it out the back. We have a radiator with a vapor chamber heatsink. In short, what it does is keep the maximum temperature I've seen on this computer while gaming with the graphics at full. The processor at half load runs at about 80 degrees, which is very good for a compact computer of this type. And for everyday tasks, normal performance, it's around 50 or 60 degrees, but that's also fine. For example, in my room right now, it's about 30, 32, 34 degrees, it's hot, it's summer, in winter it will probably be less. Also, the computer is built to avoid dust. One thing that really worries me is having large amounts of dust accumulate. That could make the computer cool less efficiently, make more noise, and also inside it could even cause some kind of malfunction. Well, that's improved with different filters and with the aerodynamic design, so to speak, of the inside of the computer. With the ports I mentioned, we'll be able to connect up to 3 screens to this computer, one to the DisplayPort, one to HDMI, and another to USB-C. To sum up, the design of this computer is very minimalist, and along with its small size, well, the truth is, as you can see on the desk, it looks really good, very unobtrusive, and we have a powerful computer. Now, was I talking to you about the processor about this computer? We're going to have a 14-core, 18-thread processor, which comes with 32 GB of RAM. DDR5, which is expandable up to 96. 96 is what this processor allows. Also, a configurable 500 GB drive, but it can be upgraded up to 1 TB. The SSD, the hard drive, is connected via PCIe 4.0, which gives us very good speed when reading and writing data. And all this information I've been telling you about, the technical data about the computer, are going to make it so that in a Geekbench test, for example, we get a score of 13,451 points for the CPU. Also, the processor will allow us to enable ray tracing, which is a tool in games. I still need to talk about connectivity. What kind of connectivity will this computer offer us? Well, it's going to have Wi-Fi 6.0 or the Wi-Fi AX standard, along with Bluetooth 5.2, which will allow us to connect to a network, for example, a home network, a mesh network like the one I have here at home, at very good speeds. I have 300 MB and it gets the full 300 without any problem. And to connect via Bluetooth, for example, devices like, well, the mouse, the MX Master that I usually use, the smaller one I have for work, all of this through Bluetooth. The connectivity is really good. But of course, many of you might be wondering what all this data actually means. Well, it translates into really good performance. The processor is more than enough for everyday tasks. Then, for example, if we want to play games, what problem are we going to have? We're going to have the problem that we don't have a dedicated graphics card. We'll have an Intel Arc, which is an integrated graphics solution built into the processor, and it works well. It has allowed me to play games. Well, you can see now, for example, some Counter-Strike matches, where you can easily get around 80 FPS with medium settings. It runs smoothly, you can play just fine. But of course, at 1080, for example, I had to lower the resolution a bit, not in 4K or in Fortnite, for example. I also lowered it to 1080 in the same way. I set the settings to medium, and it was around 70 more or less, 60 to 70 frames per second, which is enough to play a video game without any problem. Also, I was playing it over Wi-Fi, so the latency could even be improved a bit more. Now, what is this computer made for? This computer is mainly made for those applications that demand more from the processor. What kind of applications are those? Well, video editing, photo editing, audio editing. These are things that, for example, I usually do on my Mac, but on this computer, they're gonna work very well. Especially with that processor dedicated to artificial intelligence. Why? Because this processor will have some small cores that will handle artificial intelligence tasks. And what does this apply to? Well, for example, in audio editing, it's going to be applied to all those noise reduction effects, sound enhancement, and in the same way, also to photography, video, and, for example, object tracking. All these tasks that programs are currently implementing, little by little, with artificial intelligence. These processors, these cores within the processor, which are much more dedicated to it, are going to handle it. It's true that, well, I wanted to talk to you about this performance. It's going to be difficult because, after all, there are only two applications that come to mind for which it can be used. If you work with artificial intelligence in your daily life, maybe you'll get more out of it. But you should know that it has those dedicated cores for everything that requires artificial intelligence inside the processor, inside our computer. For the rest of the tasks, well, that's it. We have 14 cores, 18 threads at 4.5 GHz, so we have a very, very powerful i5 that will allow us to do any kind of task very smoothly. The truth is, coming from a Mac with an M1 Pro, I've been testing this computer for a few days. And the thing is, opening programs, browsing the internet, all of this works incredibly fast. Honestly, I don't know if it's Windows together with the processor, but my impression is that it works much faster than this Mac M1 Pro that I use every day. Now, many of you might also be wondering, we've seen other computers on the channel, we've seen different prices, is it worth paying 650 euros for this computer? Well, I would say that it depends. What does it depend on? Mainly on how you're going to use it. If you're someone who just wants to do basic office tasks, Word, browsing the internet, I think this computer is more than enough for you. You could go for a cheaper option within the brand, within Beelink, and it will give you the same results without spending so much money. If you're looking to play video games, this probably isn't the computer for you. However, it's fine for occasional gaming. If you want something dedicated, remember this computer's ventilation may be limited. Do you need a dedicated graphics card? This computer is mainly intended for people who want to do video editing, audio editing, or who need to do programming with small scripts or whatever. Mobile apps and similar tasks that need high processing power but don't rely much on the graphics card. We have a lot of RAM, we have a good hard drive, all these things are suitable for this type of application. Video editing, photo editing, audio editing, programming. Well, these kinds of tasks, and for these kinds of tasks, I think this computer is very well priced. It's true that a laptop with these same features could easily cost us 1,200 euros, which would be basically more than double. But here we have to use a monitor and a fixed setup. But it's true that if you're sure you won't be moving the computer, it's a very good option to replace your typical desktop PC. Big, it takes up a lot of space and makes a lot of noise. This computer is very, very quiet, and only when I pushed it to the limit with video games. The processor was at about 40% and the graphics card at 100%. That's when it started to make a little more noise, a noise that is honestly insignificant compared to what a desktop PC can make. Still, it can also have other uses. For example, if we want to use that 2.5 Gbps network card, we might want to set up a home server, a server for a website, for containers, for microservices, all that kind of stuff. In addition to requiring a good processor, they're going to need to handle incoming traffic, for which we need that speed and that 2.5 Gbps bandwidth. And with that said, I also want to know your opinion. If you like this computer, if you would buy it, if you need something more powerful, less powerful, to also show you other options here on the channel. But I really like this Beelink, especially for the kind of things I do, which is usually day-to-day browsing and watching content and so on. And then, especially that more creative part of video and photo editing. If you liked the video, leave a like and let me know in the comments if you found it interesting. In the description, you have the purchase link and more information about the computer. And with that said, I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.